So the other day we talked about former Alabama Crimson Tide Keilan Robinson and OU's interest in him, but OU is not alone, and today we need to break down all the institutions that are going to be gunning for the talented former Alabama Crimson Tide running back, because this is going to be a really interesting battle because he has a lot of talent to offer some team, and we have got to break it all down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no, and given that Texas and Oklahoma are both interested in Robinson, do you believe he lands in the Big 12? Let me know what you're thinking there. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, because I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy that content, be sure to like, comment down below. Those interactions are massive for content creators such as myself. But with all that being said, let's kick this off with Oklahoma, and this is going to be brief because there was an entire video dedicated to Oklahoma not a few days ago in their pursuit of possibly another transfer running back, because Oklahoma has reached out to Keilan Robinson. We know this now, and it makes sense. If you listen to what the Oklahoma coaching staff were saying throughout the spring, specifically about that running back position, the word versatility was just used a ton. And if you've been frequenting this channel, that's been a word you've heard me echoing from DeMarco Murray, from Lincoln Riley. And look, they found a versatile back in Eric Gray. Y'all know how I feel about Eric Gray. There's no secret there. I'm very high on him. I think that he's a phenomenally talented back. If you need proof of Eric Gray's talent, go back and watch his film against Auburn from a few years ago. Maybe it was last year. I can't remember off the top of my head, but his film against Auburn is awesome. He had a great game and didn't have a whole lot of help to go along with what he did. Nonetheless, Keilan Robinson has versatility, and he has it in troves. The Crimson Tide coaching staff were just in a position where they were moving him around the field, seeing how they could get him involved in a ball game. They had him at wide receiver H, that slot wide receiver position, just seeing how they could get his ability involved in any given ball game. That is versatility. And when you think about Lincoln Riley, you think about Kennedy Brooks, Marcus Majors, Eric Gray, and then you add in a Keilan Robinson, that's dangerous. And I understand, this is a loaded running back room, but the unfortunate situation that occurred not long ago within that running back room has created a situation where you could afford to go out and get a player like this. The Oklahoma Sooners have recruited the area in which Keilan Robinson comes from very, very well over the past few years, that DMV area. So this is a very real outlook for Keilan Robinson. You have Lincoln Riley, you have DeMarco Murray, you have a really solid team right now that looks poised to make a run. And if you're Keilan Robinson, you could look at the situation and say, I could be the guy to come in there and just add in another wrinkle for this Oklahoma offense and team moving forward in their pursuit of something special. That's absolutely real. But now let's keep it within the Big 12, because the Texas Longhorns are going to be looking to pitch something similar. Now, while the Texas Longhorns don't have the pitch of, we are playoff and championship ready as far as a team talent standpoint, right now, they do have the pitch of, we have familiarity in troves for you here. Kyle Flood, Steve Sarkisian, both guys you're familiar with. Steve Sarkisian was your offensive coordinator for a year. Keilan Robinson opted out last year, didn't get to work with Sark. Nonetheless, he has that familiarity, and now Kyle Flood is the offensive coordinator, someone he will be working with very closely. The Texas Longhorns are in another situation that's very interesting. They were an institution who, when Eric Gray entered his name into the transfer portal, I said they need to go all out to try and get Eric Gray. You already have Bijan Robinson, an incredibly talented running back, one of the best running backs in the nation. Easily. He is that talented. He's special. He is a special back. But you always want to have more than one guy to ease the load on Bijan and then to keep a defense off balance. You can do some really cool stuff, and Sark has shown that ability. Sark is a guy who's always had 1,000-yard rushers, and he predicates a lot of his offense off of the run. He makes it look really awesome, and Keilan Robinson could be a huge wrinkle to this Texas offense, especially when we focus back on what I said earlier about Alabama trying to get him involved in any capacity they could. That familiarity could be good for Keilan Robinson, because Texas could pitch, you're the guy to get us over the hump. You're the guy that can really shore up this season and have this season as a really solid building season going into next year. That's a real pitch, because he has a ton of versatility and a ton of ability. He could keep this offense for Texas doing a lot of different things and keep guys such as Bijan having fresh legs, and that would only help Sark's pursuit of trying to have a successful first season when he has a quarterback battle right now. Remember, you want to have good quarterback play, elite tight end play, fantastic running back play. They already have one of the best running backs in the nation if you add in a Keilan Robinson, and the running backs outside of Bijan at Texas are no slouches. They're all talented. But then you add in a Robinson, that could take it over the top. Jatavion Sanders just gets into Austin here recently, and I think he's going to be an electrifying tight end. I got to watch him play multiple times. Yeah, that kid's special. Cal is interesting. You know, Cal is a place where I think that might be a far shot for Keilan Robinson, and it's not one of the three institutions that I think are most likely. And I've already talked about two of the three. I think if we're talking about the three institutions that are most compelling for Keilan Robinson out of the list of the teams that are interested in him, which are Texas, Cal, Michigan, Jackson State, and Maryland, the three most compelling are Texas, Oklahoma, and Maryland. Now, we've already talked about Texas and Oklahoma, but now let's focus on Maryland, because the familiarity with Maryland is kind of twofold. One, you have that's the home team, the team closest to where he comes from, a ton of familiarity there. And two, Mike Locksley, the former offensive coordinator at Alabama, was actually the guy that recruited Keilan Robinson coming out of high school. So he's got that dual-fold familiarity with Maryland. Maryland looks to be doing some interesting things on the offensive end of the football field. They are doing some really, really quirky things. They have been recruiting decently well. Remember, they get Tualia Tagovailoa in there, and then flip Raheem Jarrett, the #1 wide receiver out of his class. Keilan Robinson could be an electrifying piece for Maryland. He has enough versatility to keep defenses off balance. I think that could be a really big move, something we have got to look at and keep our eye on, because any of these three institutions in Texas, Oklahoma, or Maryland make a ton of sense, but they're really not alone. Look, if we're talking Jackson State, Dion is Dion. He's an electrifying guy, and we know right now, because Dion is at Jackson State, all eyes are on Jackson State. So if you're a recruit and you want to go ball, and you've always kind of been interested in going to the HBCU level, this is an opportunity to where you can really go out there and get all the shine you want, because there are a lot of eyes on the competition right there. And Dion is an electrifying guy. He knows what it takes to be successful and then get into the NFL. That could be an interesting situation. Michigan is a team where, like Cal, I don't know how likely it is. I think Michigan might be more likely than Cal, but Michigan right now has kind of been going through this weird conundrum with what's their offensive identity. And I actually think that this year I'm more hopeful for Michigan than I have been in years past. And when I say hopeful, I understand they're in a rebuild, but I actually think that they have some pieces to be able to make it a meaningful rebuild. I don't think that they're going to be overtaking Ohio State, but I do think that they have some pieces, especially at that quarterback position, that could be interesting. And if they could sell Keilan Robinson on the quarterback position, and that this rebuild is a real rebuild that will be able to contend with Ohio State, Michigan is a storied program, really historic. You know the eyes of college football will be on you if you go to Michigan, and you know the NFL teams often peer into that Michigan pipeline for talent on the next level. No matter where Keilan Robinson goes, a team is going to be getting a phenomenally talented running back, and someone who I'm very excited to see what he does, and someone I'm going to be rooting for wherever he ends up going, whether that's Texas, Oklahoma, Maryland, Jackson State, Cal, or Michigan. The three teams I think are the most compelling. Once again, Texas, OU, Maryland. Really interested to hear what y'all think. Hop down to the comments. Let me know where you think are the most compelling arguments for him to go, and then ultimately where you would like to see him end up. That's it. See ya.